welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we really dig into things, take your curiosity, and turn it into real understanding.
Yet we do the sifting through the sources for you.
Exactly. So you get the key insights without, getting buried in information. Think of it as your fast track to getting up to speed.
And especially for you, the learner, if you're looking to grasp things quickly, thoroughly, well, hopefully we can provide some of those aha moments.
Today we're diving into a piece called They Have Changed.
And specifically, a slice of the Bible Revelation, chapter 7, verses 9 to 17.
Now, revelation, that word alone often brings up, well, pretty dramatic images, right? End of the world stuff.
Definitely. But that's kind of the interesting part we're exploring today.
Yeah, our source actually argues that just focusing on that apocalyptic angle, it kind of hides some of Revelation's really powerful messages.
It's so true. You see it all the time. Something big happens, a huge storm, maybe a pandemic.
And people immediately ask, is this it? Is this the sign?
Right. The author mentions this relatable thing about a pastor getting asked about Jesus's return during like a massive wildfire and then again during the pandemic.
It just shows how easily we try to shoehorn current events into these prophecies, doesn't it?
It really does. The thing about Revelation is it's not meant to be read like some kind of, straightforward news forecast. It's packed with symbols, visionary language. You really need the historical context to get it.
So, less doomsday timetable, more what?
More a powerful message. It's about enduring hope, really, for people who are facing intense persecution. And that message, it still hits home today.
Okay, yeah. So, according to the source, the main point, especially when things feel, desperate, it's not about cracking some secret code about the end times.
No, not at all. It's more like a testament, the writer John's deep belief that God won't just leave us hanging during trials.
And that we should keep expecting God to work, even when things look incredibly bleak.
Exactly. And to really feel the weight of that, you kind of have to go back to the first century when it was written.
Right. The source talks about this intense persecution, early Christians, Roman Empire.
Yeah, and a big Roman strategy back then was promoting emperor worship. It was their way of trying to unify this massive empire.
Ah, okay. And that sounds like it would cause some serious problems.
Absolutely. I mean, think about it. This demand to worship the emperor, it's a direct clash, not just with Judaism's belief in one God, but also with this new Christian faith focused on Jesus.
Right. The source mentions the destruction of the Jerusalem temple.
In 70 AD, yeah. And that stand at Masada, where Jewish people chose death rather than give in to Rome and worship the emperor, it really shows you the level of resistance.
Wow. So that sets the stage.
It does, because the early Christian communities, they were facing very similar, maybe even greater pressures.
So Revelation wasn't just some abstract theology for later.
No, it was a letter written to the 7 churches in Asia Minor. Real people, real communities facing real danger.
And needing real encouragement.
Precisely. Its main goal was to boost their faith, give them hope. Trust that God would ultimately win out, even in that scary time.
Which kind of brings us back to that title, They Have Changed. How does that fit in?
Well, the author suggests it might reflect how those early Christians looked to outsiders, staying faithful despite all this pressure to just go along with Roman ways.
It marked them as different, fundamentally changed in who they were, what they valued.
Exactly, a transformation. And central to that is the passage we're focusing on, Revelation 7, verses 9 through 17.
Right.
And the source points out this really interesting shift. Earlier in Revelation, there's this specific number, 144,000.
Right, I remember that.
But then suddenly, in verse 9, it shifts to a great multitude that no one could count.
Okay, so 144,000, then uncountable. What's the significance there? Are we supposed to take one literally?
Well, the author argues we shouldn't get too hung up on which number is literal. The point is the symbolism. That move to a great multitude no one could count. It just powerfully signals this idea of a huge, immense, countless crowd of believers.
Okay, that makes sense. Vastness.
And then look at the imagery. They're standing before the throne, before the Lamb.
Wearing white robes, holding palm branches.
Yes, and the source connects this imagery really compellingly. First, to Isaiah 65.
Isaiah 65. That's about restoration after exile, right? End of suffering.
Exactly, post-exilic restoration. And the palm branches. That echoes Jesus's entry into Jerusalem, the triumphal entry, the welcoming.
So John's deliberately using these images of past hope and deliverance.
To encourage people who are suffering now. He's reminding them of God's faithfulness.
Wow. Okay. And then there's that quote.
From Psalm 118, yeah. Salvation belongs to our God and to the Lamb.
So even with all the persecution swirling around, the message is crystal clear. Hope is firmly in Jesus.
Undeniably, that's the anchor. No question about where ultimate loyalty and salvation come from.
It's powerful stuff. And, thinking about that historical context, it might feel distant, but the source says it connects to us now, doesn't it?
Absolutely. It connects directly to you, the learner. Because we all face unexpected hard times, right? Or maybe you're going through something difficult right now.
Yeah. And it also mentions just that general human thing of worrying about the future, how much energy we spend on things that haven't even happened.
So true. And facing those anxieties, those potential trials, John's message is just as urgent for us.
Don't forget who you are.
Right. Someone saved through Christ.
Don't forget who God is.
And don't forget what it actually means to live like a Christian, especially when things get tough. These core truths, they're meant to stabilize us.
That's really helpful. The source then talks about imagination, which I found fascinating.
Yeah, the role of imagination in Revelation. It says John used every ounce of his imagination to picture the victorious Lord, the heavenly scene.
But it's not just daydreaming or escaping reality.
No, not escapism. It's more like the power of vision when you're facing adversity. The ability to actually see and talk about a reality shaped by God's promises, even if it totally contradicts what's happening around you.
Okay, I like that. Seeing a different reality.
And the author brings in Walter Brueggemann here.
Prophetic imagination.
Exactly. Just like Jesus proclaimed the kingdom of God he envisioned, Revelation is kind of John inviting us to tap into that same imaginative faith, especially when we're suffering.
But we need to be clear, it's not just any kind of imagination.
Right. Not just making stuff up or wishful thinking. It's about dreams, visions, possibilities that are genuinely aligned with walking with God, rooted in faith, in trust.
Okay. And the author gives some real-world examples of this, right, from their church?
Yeah, from Yolan Church, really concrete examples, envisioning church renovations, new spaces like a cafe, even a dog park.
A dog park, okay.
Yeah, and a community center, starting an English service, things they imagined, dreamt of for their community.
And the point is?
The point is that many of these things they imagined, they actually happened. They became reality.
Wow. So there's a connection between imagining things in faith and seeing them come to pass.
That's what the author suggests.
Yeah.
That desires aligned with where God seems to be leading. They often have a way of unfolding. It's a powerful thought.
It really is. So that changed. They have changed. It wasn't just about believing differently.
No, it was deeper. It was about this newfound ability in the disciples, in John, to dream, to imagine God's abundance, God's presence, even when reality felt painful and constrained.
That's a profound shift.
It really is. So, to sum up our deep dive today, looking at Revelation 7 through the lens of they have changed.
What's the big takeaway?
That even when you're facing really tough stuff, holding on to that ability to envision a hopeful future, one that's grounded in faith, that's a key mark of someone who's been genuinely changed by Jesus.
That's powerful. So that leaves us with something to think about, doesn't it? For you, the learner, maybe reflect on this. What possibilities, what dreams might you be called to imagine right now, even in your current situation?
Dreams that point beyond the challenges you see right in front of you.
Yeah. How far can you stretch your own God-given imagination? Something to chew on. Thanks for taking this deep dive with us.